Hey,
Hey, how are you?
all right, mate. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. There's a lot been going on.
Yeah, it's been a
What do you make?
while.
I know it's been a while. Uh, Obviously you saw Fury Usyk, didn't we?
Yeah, uh,
The aftermath.
there wasn't really much of an aftermath, right? Like they arrived very loud and they left very quiet.
Very quiet and not to be seen.
Yeah, when people were saying that they're gonna have this rematch in December, I was like, there's no rematch in December.
No.
Nah, 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 no chance.
They're not
Fury
gonna
will be.
they're not gonna want that smoke, are they?
Uh, at some point, maybe, but just not right now because it's it's not like Fury had the beating of Usyk, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of Wilder One. That fight actually it reminds me a lot of Wilder One, where there were points in there where Fury was comfortable, but when Usyk turned it up, he wasn't comfortable, and he he didn't perform to the level we thought he would, and we have to now start asking ourselves, Russ, has this been a con job all along? Has this
Well,
always been about nicking belts, getting a few quid, and then sliding out before people really find out what's
all
beneath the
these long
surface?
breaks, all these long breaks. You there?
Yeah, I'm there, mate.
Like Fury, he averages like since the Vladimir fight, he's averaged a fight every 10 months, right? So he's not exactly Mr. Active, and there's always been fights he's not took, hasn't there? Going back years, David Price. You know what I mean? That never happened, did it? Waited it out on that one. He let Vladimir get old, didn't he? When he could have had him after Chisora one. You know what I mean? The first Chisora one. Louis Ortiz. They offered Louis Ortiz. Not that one back. You know.
he he only took for me he took fights where if the money was ridiculous it was like may as well.
You know. Well, that's why he took this Usyk one, isn't it?
Yeah, I look but so look, boxing fans have to now ask the question, right? And it's this: the question is, how good were Fury, Joshua, and Wilder really? Because for years it was like this really happy club, and everyone kind of knew that those three would fight each other for a load of money, and the promoters just dragged it out, knowing that that was the end goal anyway, right? Promoters really dragged it out. We got Fury versus Wilder, which we're grateful for, but that was pretty much it. And then Usyk was kind of the guy that kicked the chessboard up in the air, and when well, actually, I want some of this heavyweight action. And Usyk came and revealed that these heavyweights aren't everything they're cracked up to be.
When you look at Usyk's CV as a heavyweight, we know he's done everything, don't we? Amateur, European World Olympic gold, 350 fights, 15 losses, rematched 11. We know all that. Undisputed at cruiserweight. He's then gone on to heavyweights. Done Chisora, Joshua twice, Dubois, and now Fury. I mean, he's a legend, isn't he?
You have to give it to him because he and here's where I make the distinction, right? Because I think one of the best little men to do it was Chris Bird, but I think Chris Bird kind of did it with the purest form of science, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
like Bird was just hard to hit, right? Really hard to hit, and really technically incredible. Actually, what I've loved about Usyk's heavyweight run is when he's needed to go to war, he's gone to war. So he hasn't been afraid to go up to these guys and really start putting those line paws on them. Do you know what I mean? Like bang, bang, bang. He was touching up Joshua for fun. Do you remember that first fight when he was touching him up for fun?
Yeah.
And then round 9 with Fury, he was touching him up for fun.
What about the sparring session in Alps or Swiss Alps, Vladimir, where he set about Vladimir in lead up to the hay fight? Do you know what I mean? In front of all Sky people and that. Do you know what I mean? He'll put hands on Vladimir then.
Well, so it's interesting because like I'm one of those aspiring kind of people because I've seen loads of young kids come through and beat up old vets, right? It kind of depends what the vet wants to let them do. So I'm not worried so much about the sparring, but that relationship with Vlad would have been important because Vlad would have been able to give him that raw intel where Vlad probably said, look, they ain't as good as people are making out. And so that probably gave Usyk that confidence. You know, sometimes you need that because Vlad's been in with Fury and Joshua, right?
Mm.
And he'd just been like, he ain't that good. You talk to Vitaly, what's Derek like? He ain't that good. Cool. I'm going to set about them. And that's what he did.
Well, Vitally went in with Derek, didn't he?
Yeah.
And Usyk could have done Vitally as well, wouldn't
he? Ooh.
That's a
No.
mouth-watering one, that, isn't it?
I don't think he does. And the reason I say that, Russ, is Usyk does better with guys who don't know how to go backwards. Vitaly could go backwards. That's what made him a menace, actually, is that he's one of those few really tall guys who knew how to create distance properly and use it. So I think Usyk might have struggled with Vitaly. And Vitaly would have boxed in the way Fury should have done. You know, heavy shots from round 1 to round 12. And I think Vitaly is one of the few people, and I put Hay in that mix, that in the last 10, 15 years would have had a chance of beating Usyk.
You reckon?
Yeah, I think Vitaly has one of those kind of underrated talents and skill profiles that he doesn't get enough credit for because he didn't try and take all the belts like his brother did.
How do you think Fury's CV stacks up against Lennox Lewis's?
It doesn't come anywhere near. You're not talking about Fury as a heavyweight great, in my opinion.
No?
No, because you're talking Vladimir and then
like
who?
a Buster Douglas. Like a Buster Douglas type.
Yeah, like that's why I said, has this whole thing just been a con job? Make as much money as you can while kind of holding this kind of mentally fragile man together. And I'm not saying that to disrespect Fury. I think your mental and spiritual health is important, but he always struck me as a troubled man. And a man who had to convince himself he was the Gypsy King.
Yeah.
You know, that whole family, you know, we've had a whole decade of hearing this, we're fighting men. And the more they say it, the less we believe it.
Yeah. Tommy as well.
Well, he hasn't had a fight in a while, has
he? Yeah. His legacy is poor, but people got carried away with, didn't they? You know, these fanatics. I know Stig's our pal, but they really lost their minds over him, didn't they?
They wanted a hero. You know, when you want a hero, you overlook the obvious.
Yeah, but WhatsApp fan groups called Fury Power. What is that about? Grown men.
There you go, Russ. It's like, you know, remember when you were younger and those times you found someone really attractive, yeah? And you do stupid things, wouldn't you? And like you can look back on it now as a grown man and go, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
And that's what this will be for these guys. Fury Power will be that thing where they go, we really did that. Oh my God. Why did we do that?
They lost the shit, didn't they?
And the thing is, look, you're gonna get people say, "Look, I had Fury winning 7 rounds in that fight," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, but that's not what we were promised by Fury. It shouldn't have gone to the judges. That's what we were promised." He said he was going to run through the midget. He said that guy's too small to box the Gypsy King. He said all of these things, and it didn't work out. And I think I said this after the Fury fight, Russ. We now have to go back and look at that Ngannou fight and go, that wasn't a bad night in the office. That was a warning.
Yeah. Yeah, that were like you're not what you're saying you are, because all this defensive genius stuff, it's rubbish. He's had 8 counts, hasn't he?
Yeah. And he only ever does it when it's easy. He gets hit with really basic shots.
You know, he's hit and miss, isn't
he? Look, Vladimir, he had long enough to prepare, right? I always think when you get that world title shot against an established champion, you've got long enough to prepare. Teofimo Lopez did it against Loma. He had long enough to prepare, long enough to build up the discipline to stick to the game plan, right? Fury just couldn't cope with the man being chased.
Yeah. Usyk had too much for him in his locker, didn't he, really?
But he shouldn't have done, right? There was a point in that fight, I remember if it's round 5 or round 6, Porky, he had Usyk going. Yeah, you're watching it, and he's hitting Usyk to the body, and Usyk's just going, "Oh my God, this is horrible." And you see Usyk go for a little walk around the full perimeter of the ring, and I'm like, "Mate, do you realize that you should be jumping on him right now? Yeah, 3 more body shots and maybe an uppercut to the chin. You might stop this guy." And Fury just faffed around.
Yeah. Yeah. Fury looked out of his depth after round 8, didn't he? He looked like he was spent.
It looked like he hadn't expected it to go that far. He was confused as to why Usyk was still there. And you're almost trying to explain to me he's there because you're not throwing enough shots and you're not trying to hurt him. And it wasn't like Usyk was hard to hit in this fight. Let's be very, very clear about this. Usyk wasn't hard to hit in this fight. But Usyk had more grit, more heart, more determination. He wanted that win more than Fury did, and he showed it.
Yeah. Yeah, he threw more punches, landed more. He chased the fight, didn't he?
He went after him. I'm like, what? How are you going after him? He should be going after you. And it wasn't like Fury used the size at various points of the fight really well, but it wasn't like Fury used an incredible boxing IQ. Like, he could have just gone southpaw, made his whole night a lot easier by just going southpaw. But no one in the corner said do that. Had his dad in there talking nonsense, like just all sorts of noise in that corner where you're like, this is horrible. I don't see Sugar Hill sticking around for this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it were all a bit of a shambles, wasn't it, the corner?
I think that was everything you've ever said about John Fury in one fight.
1 week. I mean, what about Headbutt Gate, Terry? What did you think to that?
You know when that happened, right? I was like, this is Russ. This is Russ. Russ has got his content for the week. This is it. This is everything Porky Russ has been talking about right here in this video.
Yeah.
I was there and I was like, I saw that headbutt and I went, at this point, Porky Russ may as well just challenge him to a fight himself.
I get stuck into him now, mate. He's all washed up. Big John don't want to fight anybody. He's a big cuddly teddy bear. If I see him, I give him a big kiss and a big hug.
Maybe they're all like that.
What? Bark louder than the bite?
Yeah, because when people set about them, I've seen in all the Fury fights, when people set about them that aren't as talented, they struggle.
He looked balmy, didn't he?
Oh, mate, yes. This looked terrible.
He looked balmy, mate. Honestly, absolute balmy. Blood trickling down his face. Screaming and bellowing and ranting and raving, screaming and shouting.
You know when John Fury showed who he really is when he met up. Remember when he met with Joshua?
Yeah.
And then they're little loving, and I was like, there you go. That's the real John Fury. Because he suddenly stood in front of Joshua, and Joshua's not a small guy, and then the noise was a bit quieter, the energy was a bit lower, and it's like, singing Joshua's praises.
Yeah. Yeah. He was there with begging ball, wasn't he?
Oh, they're gonna need it now.
What do you think will happen with all that now then? All that pantomime stuff. Do you think it'll all stop now, Terry?
Mate, while there's pennies and pounds to hoover up, it won't stop.
No.
They're going to drain every penny they can out of the sport before they go.
Yeah.
Because all these like Roman Furies and all these, they ain't good enough. Like after this, after Huey's done, that's it. Draw a line under the name.
Yeah. Well, we're going to see, aren't we? We're going to see. But so the whole aftermath and everything. What do you think to media? How they handled it all? Because it all looked a bit watered down to me.
Yeah,
the whole
whole
headbutt and the loss and that, the whole week and that, the whole shebang. What did you think to it all with media?
It just all felt scripted, but all those guys they just take their instructions, right? Because they know that they're being flown over business class, they're being housed, they're getting their little per diems and probably a little bit of drink for doing the work in that fight week. So they're like, I'm not ruining this. This is an easy gig for me. So they'll write what they're told to because they don't want to get excluded from the Saudi gravy train.
Yeah.
So you have guys like the Gad acting the fool. It's just embarrassing, mate. It was just embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally embarrassing, mate. Totally. Even Puppy Parsons, he's gone over to dark side now, hasn't he?
Well, but I don't mind that because Charlie Parsons is a kid, right? He's 2021.
Yeah.
I mean, like Gareth A. Davis is an old man. Like Charlie Parsons is supposed to do as he's told. I don't mind that. That's a young kid living his dream.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a kid, isn't he?
And no. He's a kid living his dream. Yeah, that's a big thing because Russ, if someone said at 21 you could have been talking boxing and getting paid for it, you wouldn't say no.
Well, I don't know about all that traveling. I don't know if that's me.
Oh yeah, I forget you hate traveling, don't you?
Can do, mate. I don't like it. But
We'd have all the boxing in South Yorkshire. We'll talk to Turkey. We'll do it all in South Yorkshire.
yeah, it'd be ideal, wouldn't it? But all right then. 5v5. What did you make of that?
I thought it was a good card, mate. Like you know when you saw the card line up and you're like, we could have had these at least once a year for the last 10, 15 years, right? And that would have just been a card that brought boxing fans together. And we could talk about it because it was people we're kind of familiar with. I enjoyed that. I thought Frank brought more of his A team and Eddie brought more of his B team. And I think that was probably deliberate. And then you're going to see a reversal when they do the second one. And Hearn's going to bring a lot of his bigger hitters to the 5v5. And Frank will bring his like cannon fodder to his 5v5.
Yeah. Yeah. And lost though, didn't he? 5-0.
5-0, but 10-0 in reality.
Yeah.
Mate, like just I think I've said this. I said it on my own thing. I don't know if Turkey's creating or destroying value in boxing because in one night we saw the pretty much the end of Hergovich and the end of Wilder in one night.
Yeah, I mean, what's Eddie's role now? I mean, what is he now? Is he like an agent or something? I mean, that 5v5, want three of them put up jobs that they had to get Eddie some sort of opponents, but to match Bricktop. What do you think?
That's always been Hearn's job, right? So Hearn has always been a co-promoter. So he was a co-promoter for Usyk. He was a co-promoter for Ortiz. He's always been a co-promoter. Because Hey Bellew was a co-promotional deal as well. Hearn just kind of he tells the public it's all him, but a lot of these things are just co-promotional deals, and people sign them because Hearn does all the lifting for them. It's worth it. So he doesn't necessarily care about guys like Ray Ford and Wilder and Hergovich because he hasn't got them on full contracts. They're not really his people. I think Ammo Williams is one of his people, but so is Craig Richards. But the others is co-promotional deals.
Yeah, yeah. It's what did you think to actual fights?
I'm trying to think. There were no bad fights on that. The 5v5 was solid from top to bottom. Solid.
Nick, what do you think to Ball?
Nick Ball did what Nick Ball does, right? I don't think Ray Ford's team had prepared for that because they seemed surprised that Nick Ball was still able to do it late into the fight. It's like, well, go and do your research.
Yeah.
But I think Ford's a tiny little fighter, though. I think with the right opponent, like Ford could do a fair bit of damage. But the guys like Nick Ball are a menace for anyone unless you're prepared to just go to war with them. So that was a good fight. Willie Hutchinson sprung the surprise. I hadn't seen him beating Spider, but seemed to do it easily, which was upsetting because Craig's a friend of mine, and it'll be interesting to see what Craig does next. So does he just go right? I'll have one last run, few domestic dust ups, and try and win a world title, then retire? I don't know, but he's earned the right to dictate how this phase of his career goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Ergovic. Dubois.
I enjoyed that fight, mate. I thought Daniel had to fight through someone his own size with more experience and maybe as strong as he is, testing him. And he came through that and said, I'm going to keep punching this guy. Let's see who's got the stronger will. And I think Hergovich wasn't used to fighting someone who's young, strong, and hungry. And you could see Hergovich's desire to fight start draining away. And I think those cuts over his eyes kind of saved him, to be honest with you, because he didn't look like he wanted to be there after a certain point.
Yeah.
One of those, Russ, where it looked like he was happy to take the money.
Yeah, they've been on big dough, wouldn't they?
Yeah. And so Turkey's getting his money's worth, right? Because he's fundamentally shifting the boxing landscape with his shows.
Yeah, Don Charles. Well, what do we reckon?
I'm happy for him. I am so happy for him because Don always said, give me one of these GB talents and see what I can do as a coach. And he's had to wait till he's 62 for that. That's the sickener, that he's had to wait till 62. Old enough to be Ben Davison's dad. And he's had to wait this long to get what he deserves. And I hope that interim title gets turned into a full title at some point because he deserves that.
Yeah, he does. He does. Yeah, deserves it. Chisora against Joyce.
Listen, mate, I've seen the Porky's Corner take on this. What was it you said, Russ? They sound like they're talking in water.
Underwater.
Yeah. It's true. It's worrying, right? And I think Derek's annoyed because he hasn't had that Saudi money yet, has he?
No.
But he's been there. Like I think he's been there for every one of these Riyadh season cards, and they haven't put him on yet. And now Frank's almost like, well, mate, we'll give you an audition against Joyce. If you win this, we might get you on one of the Saudi cards. But I can't see who you gonna have him fighting though.
Yeah. I know it's. I mean, if Derek wins, who does he fight then? Or if Joyce wins, who does he fight?
So to be honest, with Joyce, I can see an argument for another Parker fight. I think that makes perfect sense. And I think style wise, that probably helps Joe a lot more. If Derek wins, I don't know who you put Derek in with, mate. I honestly don't know because you got to think about who's safe to put him in with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
Exciting times ahead, Russ. That's why we love the sport.
Yeah, what do you reckon to Bivol? Where do you reckon he goes now? We are better be. I know they're saying they're going to fight, like, but it just seems to be getting moved and messed about, that doesn't it?
Mate, you know, Beterbiev's touching 40, or he might be 40 now, mate. That body can't do what it used to do. And I think he's just finding that out now, where, you know, you start getting these annoying, niggling little injuries. And
Do you
he's
reckon he'll go down as a savage?
who, Beterbiev?
Hmm.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. Because he laid waste to people that we thought would dominate light heavyweight. We thought Marcus Brown was the future of the heavyweight division.
we
He
did, didn't we?
dominated. Yeah, like everyone he's been in with, he's made mincemeat out of. Like no boxing masterclass, none of this, you know, 12, none of that. He made mincemeat out of everybody.
I know. Everybody. Cal Who did he
Yeah.
fight from Britain? Callum
Yard,
Smith.
Callum
Callum Smith.
Johnson, Callum Smith.
Yeah. He liked Golovkin and Usyk. They just ran through everybody, didn't they, from
No,
UK?
no, no. Don't put Golovkin at the same level as Beterbiev, man. No, 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 no. Beterbiev went looking for everybody. I don't think Triple G did. Golovkin, no, Triple G didn't go looking for everyone. And if you look at his CV, there was no one on there where you're like, wow, he did that to him.
Yeah.
There isn't a version of Marcus Brown on his CV. Man, like I said, Marcus Brown was
Macklin, isn't there?
oh god. Nah, Macklin was just a British world champion or world British champion as we call them.
Yeah. 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 It's what do you think to middleweight division at the moment, Terry? You know, it's a bit quiet, isn't
Hollow.
it?
It's just hollow. I think you see what happens, Russ, for me is when they hold the belts hostage for years, like they did with Canelo and Triple G. Remember, they held those belts for hostage while those guys were fighting or getting ready to fight. And so people said, right, I'm going to move into a different weight class, right? Or I'm going to stay in my weight class and not move up. So middleweight ended up just being a wasteland for a long, long time. And you find that actually, if you look at 168, there's a lot more action there. You got Benavides, you got Belanga, you got Plant, you've got Munguia. And I'm not saying these guys are greats, but these are kind of the new generation coming through. Well, not even coming through, but establishing themselves. And they're at 168. They're not going to come down back. They're not going to come back down to 160. Big Charlo's gone to 168. Little Charlo went to 168. Now it's back at 154. No one's at 160. I can't explain why. I guess it's just not. The champions aren't sexy at the moment. That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. It's what's Eubank doing?
Man, I think they're just holding him on ice so he can fight Shiraz. I think that's what it is. He'll fight Shiraz, give Shiraz the rub, and then get his payday. That's really what he's there for.
Where do you see Joshua's role in all this now? It's all gone quiet on him, hasn't it? You see,
Well,
the bar.
well, mate, Saudi Arabia's been the worst thing for Joshua's career, right? Because he's never going to have a meaningful Wilder fight, and he's never going to have a meaningful Fury fight. So he's going to end his boxing career with no real legacy fight. And that's sad for him. Yeah, he'll never be a guy that we'll ever talk about in terms of he had a legacy, he had a trilogy, he didn't have anything. And now there's a very real possibility he's going to have to fight all of these young guys coming through. And he's going to be the only guy left in a position to do it. Because he can't keep getting these Jermaine Franklins and Robert Helleniuses anymore. Right? Like it's disrespecting the sport. At some point, he's got to fight one of these contenders. If he's serious about his legacy, he has to fight one of these contenders.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Joshua now, isn't it? Oh, Big Meech.
Well, yeah, but what are his options, Russ? Let's be honest. What are his options right now?
Well,
No
he's
one
got
wants
to
to see the
wait
Usyk
out with
rematch.
Usyk, Kane and Fury, see if they're going to fight. And he could also go for Dubois, couldn't he?
I don't think he has. I think he has to fight one of Dubois or Zhang, and those aren't going to be easy nights for him. I think Zhang's an easier night for him, but him fighting Dubois, ooh.
Zhang's an hard fight for Joshua.
Didn't they fight before in the Olympics? Have they fought in the Olympics? So yeah, so I don't think psychologically it'll be a hard fight. Joshua does struggle with southpaws. I think that's Zhang's advantage, and then he's bigger than Joshua, but he's also 40. And can they make a smoothie of nuts, berries, and juices that will make him box like a 30-year-old? That's the question.
And get away with it.
Yeah.
We're going to see, aren't we?
Yeah, it's amazing. Let's hope so.
We're going to see, but Joshua needs to get a move on because these 4 fights he's just had, Wallin and Elenius were former sparring partners. Franklin, do me a favour, and Ngannou in his second fight. That ain't enough for me after Usyk done him twice. No. And his performance with Ruiz.
Yeah, he hasn't shown us that he's back yet.
No. And Zhang, he's a live wire, Zhang.
He's got a point to prove.
Yeah.
He's trying to show, look, you guys try to keep me away. You knew what was coming.
Well, it's not, and there's Parker it mix, but would we want to see Joshua Parker, Terry?
A little bit, yeah. Because look, and you're gonna see it in your comments when this video comes out. There's enough of an argument that Parker was never allowed to box his natural style against Joshua because of the ref. And people make the argument that Andy Dees made a difference, Dr. Oz made a difference, and he's fighting differently now. There's enough of a story, He's beaten Wilder, who Joshua was allegedly running from, and he's beaten Zhang, who you could argue Joshua's been avoiding too. So there's a lot of energy on Parker's side to make the fight sensible. But it's still Joshua versus Parker, and that's going to be rough. That's going to be rough for Parker because, Joshua won't be afraid to beat him up.
Yeah. Yeah, Joshua just needs to get a move on, though, in my eyes, because I think his career's stalling.
He's becoming irrelevant.
Right?
He's becoming irrelevant, but I don't think he cares.
Oh, yeah.
No, and I think that he I've said this so many times. He's the guy that enjoys being around other boxers. He enjoys being in the gym. He enjoys that part of it, I think. And then all the other stuff, I think he could leave that well alone. But from what I'm hearing though, Russ, he's enjoying being around prospects and being in the gym that's full of energy and full of like just boxing chat and boxing energy.
Yeah. Yeah, it strikes me as a gym rat. Do you think he's gelling with Ben Davidson?
We'll find out when the big fights come. because you can look good against Hellenius and you can look good against Ngannou. Those aren't the fights we care about. It's when you have to fight the top table guys. Then we'll see what he's got capable.
Yeah. You think?
Yeah.
Well, he seems to be the go-to guy, doesn't he, at the moment?
Probably the only one that's left.
Do you think Dom Ingle will get any of them GB team?
I don't think he wants them.
They don't get much of a look in, do they, with that lot?
I don't think he wants them.
No.
If you look at what Dom likes people he can just mold, because he's tried to train people who come to him and it hasn't really worked out, has it? But all the guys he's had from early, it tends to work better. So like your kid Galahad, your Kell Brooks, even the kid he's got now, Brad Goldsmith, he likes to get the kids in before other coaches have polluted their mind.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. What's that kid called now from Sheffield? Glyn Rhodes kid. I had him on my channel. He won ABS.
Tian Scott.
Tian Scott. He's in GB team.
Yeah, like that should be like that. That's like Porky Russ's claim, man. If that guy goes on to do something, Porky Russ was the first guy to mention him anyway.
I gave him his first interview, didn't I?
Yeah, you'd have been what, 15?
They were 15. They were buzzing. Nice kid as well. Yeah, spars Whitaker. Ben Whitaker.
Yeah, looks like he's got some talent to him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really, really good. He's a big lad. Got a good attitude. You could see even then he had a good attitude. But he's going places. Yeah. So Tian Scott, remember the name. When he came on my channel. I'll have to dig that one out. Cameron, dig that one out. Yeah, that's a good one. Do you want to go on to part 2, Terry?
All right, no worries. I'll do that now.
All right, cheers, mate.